Hey, it's Carl with a K. Let's talk about Hollywood. Welcome to the show. Hi, this is Carl Gibson, and welcome to Let's Talk About Hollywood. This is episode 39. Episode 39. Thank you so much for being here. This is a journals episode, so we're going to get right into the journals shortly. I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank the countries that listened last week and downloaded. Thank you to the United States, Spain, Thailand, Italy, Canada, Vietnam, Germany, Brazil, China, France, India, the United Kingdom, Kenya, Serbia, La Reunion, and Togo. So thank you all. I am always honored and humbled. And that's what my last episode was about, which was episode 38, which was a thank you to the many countries and some of my thoughts in making the podcast. And I'm just always so thrilled to be a part of your podcast routine, whether it's in the morning, evening, anytime. I so appreciate you and thank you. So where we are is September 2002. I am about to turn 33. My husband Bebbles and I have moved into a new apartment, and I have turned down a job because my supervisor is leaving and the editor-in-chief needs an assistant and office manager, and I don't want the job. Neither does my co-editorial assistant at the time, who I get along with well then and now. Hi Beams. That's our nickname. She'll know if she's listening. So there's a lot going on, and we'll just get right into these journals. And this episode is called Leaving It All on the $50 Million Floor. Tuesday, September 10th, 2002. Somehow, my pants got washed at the cleaners and my leather shoes shrunk from getting wet, so I arrived at the newsroom feeling shrink-wrapped and determined to buy more clothes, especially pants. Stone has so many pants, he's never at a loss. I was also late to work because who wants to rush in an outfit that they hate? It would be pointless to rush since more people would notice. My supervisor said, "Nice shirt, Carl. You look like a star." That was sweet, but my mind said no. It's just been one of those days. 8 days in our new apartment without air conditioning. Bebel Stone is handling it, and an electrician should be in today. Otherwise, the apartment is fine. It is actually a sweet luxury. It's fall now, and the news cycles are a lot busier than normal at work. My supervisor is leaving within days, and my direct boss, the editor, there's no telling the hiring plans since I turned the roll down. My boss seemed pretty happy last Friday, a lot more outgoing and playful than usual when it comes to me. I'm not always outgoing with my bosses. I tend to be the more stoic type. It will be interesting to find out what it is that he keeps saying will be made all better this Friday. Stone has some ideas about that. He thinks that because my supervisor is leaving, her replacement surely won't be making the same salary, so maybe my boss will distribute the wealth and make me an office manager without all of the accounting duties that go with it. My boss is still interviewing replacements for the role. I turned down the role again by reiterating to my boss that I'm better off at my current jobs and that I'm of better use that way. I just have a hard time seeing corporate coming up with a salary for me that would make it worth it. I have a feeling that I'm going to be put on the spot this Friday at the executive lunch I was invited to for my supervisor's farewell. It will be nice to see her get the farewell lunch that she deserves. I'll just make sure to wear an outfit that can't go wrong. The 1-year anniversary of 9/11 is approaching tomorrow. I don't plan to watch any TV on the subject. It's still so vivid. I was here in the newsroom until 8 p.m. that night, watching the towers fall and the field and Pentagon on fire again and again on monitors that we had placed in the newsroom every few feet. Psychologists are advising people not to watch 9/11 themed programming to avoid becoming more depressed and anxiety-ridden as usual. I actually saw a set of 9/11 t-shirts for sale at Albertsons, the grocery store. Remembering 9/11, it said. Like buying that t-shirt means those who aren't wearing one don't remember 9/11? It's tacky. The United Way still has $300 million to distribute to relief efforts. That's how much people have donated. My actor and assistant buddy didn't get a guest spot on Everybody Loves Raymond, but we knew that would happen. He said he was the youngest guy there and that the other actors were all 30 years older, and he was the only black guy called in. I ran lines with him in the stairwell. He was happy for the opportunity to audition for a hit show, and I don't blame him. Wednesday, September 11th, 2002. Here in the newsroom, and the phones are barely ringing. It's been speculated that a lot of people stayed home from work today in Los Angeles for the 9/11 anniversary. Could it be that Hollywood has put their crass cares away for one day? We'll see. Here at the publishing headquarters, we had a moment of remembrance outside in the office park. It was time for everybody to have to stand together. There were about 70 of us, and we bowed our heads for a couple of minutes. I was appreciative that they gave us this time. I remember 9/11 so well. I was so nauseous that whole day with what next anxiety and sadness. We all witnessed or read of the hellish carnage. I also felt so far away from home on the East Coast, being here in Los Angeles. I was so relieved that everyone in my family back home was okay. One major drag about 9/11 now in the year 2002 is how some companies have just milked it to the hilt for every excuse and failing. It has become more about the money the corporations have lost versus the lives that were lost and the cost of true freedom and choice. You know, it's like we are in a war. Everyone lost money last year or knows someone who did. Stone was laid off twice within the year. We didn't blame 9/11. Some of these executives have just run it into the ground. There are some 9/11 themed books, though. One is by the New York Times that I have on a wish list for a later time. Some of the writing is very touching, and people went out of their way to remember what made those people that we lost in the world so special. I was proud of the Hollywood Reporter's 9/11 issue today. No exploitative pictures, just well done. Speaking of 9/11, Stone's office was holding a commemorative remembrance today at their office. Everyone was asked to include some memento or picture, whatever they wanted to include that was relevant to the day. Well, Stone was forwarded 2 pictures yesterday by a friend of the World Trade Center. His IT department intercepted the photos and called Stone into their offices and asked him, "Why do you need these?" When Stone was telling the story, it was funny the way his face was fixed in an expression of, "Can you be serious?" Stone told them, "We're having a commemoration. We were all asked to contribute something. Those pictures are my contribution." They refused to give the pictures back. Pictures that are in the public domain anyway. Like, what did that do to protect anyone's sense of security? It didn't become a big debacle, and no other managers were brought in. Their work emails are all spammed by the techies. My supervisor's farewell lunch is tomorrow. It's a 2-hour lunch, and all the key editors will be there, including my editor-in-chief boss. My co-assistant and I are getting ready for what this new era will bring. I'm having visions of a scenario like the hit sitcom, where a key actress left, was replaced, and no one in the cast, except for one supporting actor, liked the new actress. It's going to be a bad sitcom, I think, without the laughs. First, there's the 2-week gap, at least, before a new person would start in the newsroom, which means me and my co-assistant have to do our jobs and the vacant role together. Then, Once the new person starts, they're going to quickly learn the Hollywood swim because they're going to be thrown into 15 feet of water and expected to swim. Swim, damn it! And there will be mistakes, naturally, and volatility in the higher ranks will be a possibility. A lot of people in the newsroom don't think the new person will last. My co-assistant and I are going to give them a chance, but there's only so much we can do. We can't take them in as a confidant or babysit. Our supervisor was more of a den mother. It's going to be a radical change, but this new hire is either going to do fabulously or they're going to tank. Either way it goes, I can see a huge influx of news tasks and responsibilities coming my way, and I'm already at the saturation point. You can only squeeze so much juice out of me for $13.50 an hour. I asked somebody in the know if management will look out for the salaries of my co-assistant and me. They said, they're going to have to. Your boss needs you both. If either of you leave, or if both of you leave, he's fucked. Then they laughed. I did too. It was so true. They said that our raises were already submitted with the editorial budget, and that will be revealed in January 2003. Someone who left the company with some low-key controversy last year tried to rejoin the newsroom today. A lot of people got burned by this former person, all the way up to corporate, who, as a result, ended any petty cash for the newsroom. Management was incredulous when their resume was brought in by HR. I overheard the crisp and loud instruction to, quote, write reject on that resume packet and send it to HR. I don't even want to have it in my breathing space. And so it was. Thursday, September 12th, 2002. I went to the 11 o'clock Emmy meeting today with the editors. I was brought into the meeting to know how it was all going to go down on Emmy Sunday, September 22nd. I didn't have to say much or anything. Everybody went around the table and said what their preparations were, and when it came to me, my boss asked me, any questions, Carl? I said, I'm working the Emmys Sunday. I had to ask since I don't work Sundays anymore. My boss said, yes, it'll be overtime for you. No way in hell I want a temp on that night, so call HR and make sure they don't send one. I got home and told Stone last night that this is what my directives are, and Stone said, think positive. I told Stone it's not about thinking positively, it's about thinking realistically. I'll be working overtime for the Emmys from 3 in the afternoon to 1 in the morning. I didn't have to handle credentials, which was a concern of mine. I just didn't want to be responsible for staff getting in at the Shrine Auditorium with the myriad level of passes that they need. The plan is red carpet arrivals, those that note the arrivals, and those who wrangle the celebrities in notable suits for quotes and interviews. There's Emmy coverage the next day, Monday morning, and then the following day we'll have the Emmy party photo spreads. For the Emmys, there's the matter of laptops on site for the reporters, 2 tech teams, one at the Shrine and one at the Bureau, media check-ins, a bomb sweep of the Shrine Auditorium before anyone is allowed on the premises, and the hours-long gap between the celebrity arrivals and the start of the show. I'm having my post-birthday celebration at Sky Bar at the Mondrian Hotel this Friday after 10 hours at work for the 3rd year in a row, this time without Nigel. We're not on the outs, but he's been pissy and glum lately about everything. Bebbles and I have our new apartment housewarming this Saturday, and I work the Emmys this Sunday. There's still a week until whoever is replacing my supervisor starts, at best. I need to eat me some Wheaties or get some B-complex vitamins from the GNC store. We had the farewell lunch from my supervisor today, and it went well for her. We went to an Italian restaurant on Melrose Avenue. We had designer water, and the waiters asked me, sparkling or flat? I had flat. I had Rosetto al funghi with sausage, and it came with a huge purple leaf of lettuce that was draped in butter sauce of some sort. Yummy. Our supervisor was at the head of the table, and there were about 15 of us there. Lots of small pockets of conversation, and we were just glad to be out of the newsroom. I told a funny story, and my co-assistant said, "You tell the funniest stories." I think it went over so well because I'm a good mimic of the voices of the focal characters. It was a story from an old job, not a Hollywood Reporter story. We got back to the newsroom, and there were a few pissy reporters who felt that if they hadn't been invited, then at least they shouldn't have had to do more work on behalf of those who were. There were people at the lunch from every beat, but I guess those in the newsroom were on the hook for all of the deadlines. Me and my co-assistant were free from any grumbling because Rico covered for us in the newsroom. Rico is the one who got me transferred. I was telling my co-assistant how some of the writers and reporters felt excluded, and she made a hilarious point saying, "I don't complain about being left out of their daily Starbucks parade." Ha! She's right. Every morning, clicks from our publishing company go out in 3s and 4s to Starbucks, like the Manson girls. I think it's a social ritual, and it strikes me as so pedestrian and boring. I'm the brute. I go to 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee. My indulgences are the occasional $6 salad when I've been eating atrociously. It's a little bit later, and I'm now here at home. Bebbles is on the balcony, and he's also a little pissed with me, which is fine. For one, I'm writing this and keeping my own counsel, and I didn't argue with him. See? Easy. Bebbles' festivity is because he invited his coworker, Faith, and her husband, Salvador, up to our apartment after work. "And what did we connect with?" Bebbles asked. I immediately said, "Our bedroom?" being facetious, and he said, "Yes," like it was the most easygoing thing. I told Bebbles I don't appreciate them in my bedroom. I'd never even met them. Bebbles defended the whole team by saying, "They wanted to see how big the room was." I said, "I don't care. Having company traipse into our bedroom is uncouth." Bebbles was about to get sassy, but decided to do his own thing. So here I sit, writing what just happened and still convinced of my position. Ha ha. I don't know them well enough for them to be lounging on my bed pillows, and why would they want to? I would never go to someone's house, someone I've known all of 2 months from work, and ask to see their room. What's up with that? Bebbles can just get ready to not make that a habit. We're hardly home to enjoy our new place ourselves, much less our bedroom. This isn't a set, and it's not even all unpacked. I'm just not down with it. My bedroom is private, and Bebbles is here giving full-scale tours. Not cool. When I left work tonight, 2 editors told me separately, "Great story, Carl," regarding the one I told at my supervisor's farewell lunch. One of the editors grew up knowing Ernest Hemingway. The story was one where a senior receptionist I was working with in the 90s heard me say shit for the first time, as in, oh shit. The receptionist, Beth Ann, looked down at her desk with a concerned face, disapproving lips and all, and said, "Carl, I'm going to tell you what I tell my daughter, Heather, when she talks like that. I say, did Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis talk like that? Now, I'm going to ask you, Carl, would Cary Grant talk like that? No, he would not. Oh, baby Carl, you're so cute. I just want to take you home, put you on the couch, and feed you cookies." Everybody at the table laughed so hard it was uproarious before I even finished. I was really shocked. I didn't expect that reaction. It was a great moment. One of the international editors said that was the best story of the lunch. Bebbles has been and is my sounding board for my supervisor's last day tomorrow. No one at work has said anything about a replacement. My boss asked me a couple of weeks ago what my salary was. When I gave him the answer, the first 2 numbers are lower than my age. He seemed astounded. I joked with him, "Are you astounded by how high or how low?" I would love to think that my co-assistant and I would get a raise. A raise would ensure another car for me and Bebbles and a great vacation, all by December. This is Hollywood, though. I'll have to wait. I also read a lot of Hollywood trade books and history. You just don't see a lot of black men getting raises in this town. My boss had a private talk with me and told me that I'm literally the best when it comes to rare assets and news, and he knows that I bust my ass for the Hollywood Reporter as a paper. We all do. Sales are up 23%, and I'm there at least until well after 7 p.m. every night. I just haven't seen the organization be free with money. Not to the assistants, anyway. So I'm not being negative. After all, these are the people who did not give me a raise after a superior evaluation. I couldn't have gotten any higher on the percentage scale, and I still didn't get one. There's never been any money, but now there is? My boss could make it happen tomorrow. Conversely, I've been fought on salary my whole adult career. I just don't have that vision of Hollywood suits making my life easier financially. I just had to lobby for business cards not so long ago. For money to be signed off on in any notable way requires old Hollywood powers at work on your behalf. It really requires moving the mortal heavens. What is definite is that work is going to get harder. There will be more of it. By the time the Emmys are over in less than 2 weeks, I'll have turned 33. I have to hold my good work as an example and stand on it. I've been fucked out of a lot of money this new century. It would be good to see it come back. All right, everybody, that's the episode, and here's the recap. All right, well, 9/11, that was always, and still is, but that was in 2002. It was always such a somber occasion because it was still so vivid, and it really had changed the way that people felt in the world, and especially in America, as far as security. And it was and still is one of those moments and tragedies where people remember where they were. Everyone remembers where they were if you were alive September 11th of 2001. And the commercialization of it, just at Albertsons, which is a grocery store chain, remembering 9/11, get a Twix, get a 9/11 t-shirt. It just seemed so like, okay, what are we doing here? And also, more than that, because everyone was starting to sell merch. I think what I was saying too was just that in the corporate world, as I noticed it, it was a lot about, our stock, not my company where I was working, but so many companies would be like, our earnings are down because of 9/11. And okay, you get it, that happens. But it's like 9/11 became the catch all for any kind of, if you laid off 20 people, even if you were profitable, it was just people would say, oh, it's because of 9/11. And I remember a supervisor telling me, well, we should all just be thankful that we have jobs. And I was like, you be thankful you have a job. Like, most people have to work. So yeah, people are grateful for their work, but it's not like you're giving it to us. Like I've said before, it's not like a Pixar movie, like everybody leaves and the chairs come to life and have conversations. And the coffee machine goes, you don't know what I've been through. That, hey, if Pixar makes that movie, you heard it here first. The Office just comes to life. Anyway, with 9/11, I just remember that constant crying broke. It was like, people died in front of our faces. It just, so yeah, there could be some crass, under the hood stuff here and there corporately, but the pain was real, and it was still, like I said, just very, very vivid. So I just remember thinking, the remembrances and the memorials were just so much more poignant than people just complaining about how it had disrupted the world, because it disrupted everybody's world ultimately. And of course would lead to even further conflict and war to come. So that was that. And then as far as the Emmys, that was my first Emmys that I worked. I'd been at the Hollywood Reporter for the Emmys in 2001, but this was the first one where I was included. And I would end up doing many more award seasons for the time I was there through 2008. So I remember thinking that was really amazing. And as you could hear, they had to do bomb sweeps of the Shrine Auditorium that year because of the heightened security, because of course Hollywood was always under specific threats or for people to bomb the studios and such at the time, which is public record. But I remember it was just a very intense time. And back at home with Bebbles, Faith and Salvador, well, they ended up becoming very close friends of ours. They were the ones that I didn't appreciate being in my bedroom. And I stand by that at the time because, people sitting on your pillow, like I saw butt prints, like in the comforter, like where I sleep. I was like, y'all are just lounging on the bed, having a kiki, like what? And it's true. Two things I don't do. I don't go to people's houses and go, let me see your bedroom. Because that's like where people decompress. That's where people have sex, if they're lucky. Or not lucky, perhaps if they so choose. Right? I don't go into people's bathroom and look in their medicine cabinets. It's like, you don't need to be looking at people's NyQuil and Q-tips and Advil. It's like, just what is up with that? But maybe that's because I was working in a newsroom and I was just aware of people being so nosy, just in general. Not the reporters, but just the vibe, just get out of people's business. So anyway, I just thought, to have a coworker just go, hey, I want to know what your bedroom looks like. I got super pissed about that. But they ended up becoming good friends of ours. There's more to come on that. They were really, 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 really good to Bebbles. They loved him so much. I cannot take that away from them. I loved Salvador. I still remember his juicy facial cheeks. He just had a really sweet face. He was like a tall Latino David Arquette. He was just sweet. You know how you look at David Arquette and just go, oh, he's sweet. That's how Salvador was. And Faith, she's something else. And like I said, we're still friends, but nowhere near the friends that we were. And that'll come later, but no big fallout. Just after Bebbles died, I just became very clear that I wasn't him, but they were friends to the point that they went on, like we did couples vacations, things like that. Yeah. So no shade to them, but we shouldn't have done, that was a lot of togetherness sometimes that I can see now years later. We should have been a little more time to ourselves because I just didn't know that we'd have 3 years left together as of this time, not even 3 to come, because Bebbles died in 2005. So God bless Faith and Salvador, wherever they are. Actually, I know where they are, but God bless them. And I don't mean that in a shady way. It's just complicated. And I think that's really about it. Oh, that story with, did Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis talk like that? My boss that was so mortified when I said shit. What I didn't say in the story was, she said, now would Cary Grant say that? And I said, if he were me right now, yes, he would. I absolutely do think that Cary Grant would use the word shit. He took elective LSD for therapy. Allegedly, I think he would. So it was just, she was so funny. Beth Ann, that receptionist, she was very one of those kind of, morality police kind of ladies. And she thought I was so cute. She used to call me Baby Carl. Baby Carl. Like I was a Cabbage Patch doll or something. And that she just, that I was like 6 feet tall and like 230 pounds. And she thought she was just going to hoist me onto her couch and feed me cookies like I was a doll baby. It was twisted, but it was very funny. And it's still funny, but might not have been funny in this podcast, but it sure was funny at the time. And so, yeah, when I look back on this, to have a housewarming, a birthday celebration, and the Emmys all within 3 days is bonkers. I don't know how I would do that today. I mean, I know I would have the energy for it, but it would just seem so overwhelming. But when you're 33, you make it work. And the Sky Bar was always nice at the Mondrian Hotel. It's still there, of course. Sky Bar was always a really nice place to have a drink and just get together and, look at the LA basin below. It was always very nice. And the Emmys were always stressful. And you'll find out how the housewarming went, because that happened too. I seem to remember a picnic table being pulled up like by a pulley or a crane into the apartment to accommodate the guests. And this wasn't like Hollywood crane. It's not like spend $2,000 on a crane. This was like DIY. Like, this was someone's pickup truck and some pulleys and someone's equipment maybe for a few minutes. I didn't handle that. That was Bevel's magic. So that's how that happened. Anyway, there will be more to come on that. In the meantime, before I wrap this up, as you know, this podcast runs on donations. It's always going to be free. If you would like to donate, you can go to either of the links in this episode's show notes, or show notes for any of the episodes, or you can go directly to my website, www.letstalkabouthollywood.com/support. If you'd like to donate, I'd be so grateful. If you can't, I'm still grateful that you're here. And come back. Feel free to share the podcast, to subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and feel free to rate the podcast as well. You can do that on the Apple iTunes Store, wherever you get your podcasts. And also, if you want to reach out to me, you can write me at studioexeccarl@gmail.com. That's studioexeckarl@gmail.com. I'm Carl Gibson. You can find me on socials. I'm not prolific on them, but if you know what this cover art looks like, oh, the jokes write themselves. I'm sorry for that honking horn. Look, as if to underscore the point, if you're on socials, you can find me there. You've seen the key art of this podcast. You know what I look like, the black guy with the long hair. And there you go. Okay. So thank you for being here. I'm not going to edit that out because it's just, hey, that's life. You're talking and meep. It's just, lo-fi authenticity, right? Right. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time. And as always, don't forget, love is real. And I wish you all great things. Have a great rest of the weekend, a safe weekend. And I wish you love as always. Take care. Bye-bye.